Hey, are you free? Today's conversation is one I've been holding close to my heart, and honestly, I've been wanting to talk about it for a very long time. I'm sitting down with my dear friend and fellow coach, Lourdes, for a raw and honest talk about a topic that rarely gets airtime it deserves: potty training our neurodivergent kids, or really any child who doesn't follow the typical milestones or expected patterns. Lourdes and I both have neurodivergent children on the autism spectrum, and their potty training journeys have looked nothing like the parenting books promise. And honestly, nothing like what our friends and family have experienced either. We're here to share our real stories, the messy, beautiful, frustrating, and unexpectedly hilarious moments, so that no parent, especially you, has to feel alone in this. Whether your child is 2 or 12, whether you're making progress, just surviving the day, or even taking a conscious pause from focusing on potty training altogether, we hope this episode brings you a deep exhale, a few good laughs, and a reminder that you're doing an incredible job. Oh, and just a quick heads up, if you stick around to the very end, there's a little bonus content waiting for you. So whether you're walking, driving, hiding in the bathroom with your coffee, or changing a diaper, wherever you are, welcome to the conversation.
I'm so excited. I've been really wanting this episode today, and I am so excited, Lourdes, that you're here. I want to talk about potty training. So my daughter is 9. She's autistic and nonverbal. And as of June of 2024, she has not peed in her diaper. And as of January of this year, we have had about a 90% success rate of having a bowel movement on the toilet. And I mean, I'm as a mom of a 9-year-old and society telling us that potty training happens at 18 months, at 2 years, at 3 years, like that wasn't my experience. And I just remember you sharing with me your experience. And I was like, girl, we got to talk about it. Like, we have to talk about it. We need to shout this from the rooftops. People cannot feel alone anymore while they're going through this. Like, this is one of the milestones that are different for everybody. I just spoke to a mother the other day, and while her 15-year-old son is still actively working on learning how to use the bathroom, probably again an 80% success rate, they're still working on potty training. And I'm like, that's going to be my life. And so how do I continue to be okay with that? And so I'm just so grateful to have this conversation with you today, because you were the person that I thought of immediately when I was like, I want to do a potty training episode, or like just about me and my experience and what's yours. So I don't know if there's anything you want to share before we kind of jump into some reflective questions on your life and your experience and why you're here, why you said yes.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much for thinking of me. When you told me that you wanted to talk about this particular topic, I was thinking, yes, girl, absolutely, because we have had so many conversations, you and I, about the journey, the exhaustion of potty training. So my son, he's 4, he's going on 5. And yeah, we are still on this journey. And I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to give it a voice. He's also neurodivergent on the autism spectrum. And the traditional rules and milestones just don't apply. And I don't want parents, beating themselves up on why can't this happen sooner? What am I doing differently? So I'm really excited to share my insights, my perspective, my experience with you and anyone else who's listening. I think it's definitely an important topic because I have heard no one talk about this openly. They talk about
I'm like, did
everything
I
else.
miss it?
Like
Did
they
I miss
talked about everything else. You're just like, oh, I got to do this thing and this therapy and this therapy. And it's kind of like literally doesn't get talked about. So I'm really excited to be talking about it because he's going to be 5. He's going into kindergarten.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. And I love how you were like, we beat ourselves up over it. And I feel like this has been the journey. So I'm 4 years ahead of you on this journey. And I remember you sharing with me the first, like, just you had there was just some defeatness in you where you felt defeated and you didn't know what to do. And I was like, it's going to happen when it happens. Like, and being able to say that and know it true to my heart is like, it's hard when you're in it though. It's hard. So, curious question here.
Yes.
What did you imagine potty training would look like when with your son?
In my opinion, it was going to be a breeze. So I have an older son, and they said, listen, boys, they potty train a little bit older in life, not as quick as the girls, according to the guidelines and the gurus and the experts. So I'm thinking, great, absolutely. So we started potty training him around age 3. Mom, dad, babysitter, we all rallied around it. We threw on a couple of potty videos. He danced around in his soggy underwear like he got wet, and he didn't like the feeling, just like the book said. He may not like the feeling. So they're going to go to you and say, I'm wet. And he did everything that was pretty typical. It took us a while, but we did get there eventually. So when my second son came around, I was like, ugh, this is going to be a cakewalk. What did I do? Autopilot, looked through my notes from the years prior. We threw on the potty training video. We, had the toy potty. We had him in his underwear, and we were making no traction.
Hmm.
In fact, unlike what they tell you, like, oh, they're going to feel wet, they're going to be uncomfortable, they're going to want to tell you that they got to go. Not with my second son. From a sensory perspective, he could have given two shits if he was sitting in his piss. Piss, poop, didn't matter. Like, there was nothing that was going to say, this actually feels very uncomfortable. And, you have to understand, my son also is very limited verbally. So even if he was uncomfortable, he wouldn't even articulate that. But for him, because it didn't bother him, I was beside myself. I was doing the 30-minute runs, even though he was throwing a tantrum. But I'm like, well, that's what the book said to do. So I was still applying the traditional guidelines with my child who had very limited verbal abilities. In fact, he was very nonverbal at that age when we were attempting. We did the let them run free and be wet, and it was like insane. So I was like crazy mom, putting pee pads, wiping up after my son. And I'm like, this is maddening. Taking a week off of work, nothing worked because he wasn't ready. Despite what they
Wow.
said, he wasn't ready. And I think what I learned for myself in that moment was, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I was applying milestones and timelines for my first child. It did not apply to my second child. And those invisible guardrails, because I think, like most parents, especially moms, maybe I'm being biased, we're rule followers, we're checklists, at least I'm very type A. And I'm like, we got to do this, this, and this. And I didn't have those guardrails anymore. They were invisible guardrails, but I didn't have them. So I felt very shaken, uncertain. I didn't have anyone to talk to about it because my siblings couldn't relate. Their kids didn't have verbal issues or sensory issues. So I think for me, what was different was that these timelines, milestones, and these guidelines that were my invisible guardrails didn't work. And it sucked. It really sucked because I'm like, well,
You
now
put in
what?
a lot of effort and a lot of
I really
energy.
tried. I really tried. And I was like, well, back to the pull ups until we're
You know
ready
what's
to
crazy?
try again.
I'm like listening to your story. I'm like, yeah, girl, you tried. Like
I
you
really
tried
did.
very hard. I didn't try at all. I was like,
Well, it
she's
was
not ready.
hard. It was hard. And look, by the way, I gave up. I too had to wash my hands. And I'm like, you're just going to be in the pull ups for a while because I can't. I got to go to work. I got, I have another son. I have there's so many things. And I was like, I can't take another week off of work. Sure, there are parents that have been in that boat and they're just like, we're just going to have to try again. And I did stop trying. We did the timers, but it was not with the same gusto. And like, I just lost the
Curious, what
wind.
happened when you stopped trying? Like, what happened for you as a parent? What happened?
I felt guilty. There was a little bit of guilt, but then there was a bit of relief because I'm like, I tried my best. So in the beginning, I felt I was beating up myself and I was just like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't make it happen. But then I kind of started feeling relief because I'm like, wait a second. This is a completely different child, different human, different experience, different growth. And I started to feel relief a little bit because I cut myself some slack. And I'm just like, listen, we can try again. but it's just not going to be this season. Like the age 3 to 4, he's just not there yet. And I got myself okay with that. But my initial reaction was like, well, you kind of gave up. And I kind of needed to for my sanity, honestly, and for his sanity, because it was stressing him out. So I was like, it's okay. It's fine. But the initial reaction was like, I feel so guilty that I'm not trying harder. But I've
It's
made
interesting
peace.
you say that, I feel like we got to think of a different word for like we gave up, because in the moment it does feel like we gave up, but it's like you consciously and strategically decided that you're going to take a step back, because it's so
Fair.
hard on
Yeah.
yourself and on your son and on your family to put these expectations out there. And now we're creating a level of like even more disappointment. I've seen a lot of people on social with children on the spectrum and having neurodiverse needs that have pulled away from like speech therapy and OT therapy and have pulled away from it all. And I'm always so curious, and I'm like, like, I wonder if that works, And that kind of happened with Aubrey a little bit in school this year, where we tried to integrate her into some classrooms, and she's got a lot going on. She's prepubescent too. So I don't think that's how you say it. She's a preteen. But, and so the more you give them, sometimes it increases the frustration, it increases the stimuli, it increases the weight that's put onto their shoulders, and it makes it all worse where they can't focus on it. Our kids are still learning skills that other kids learned years ago. Their mind and their bodies are not ready for this skill yet.
Absolutely. And you're right. And I really took that to heart in terms of, you know what? It's okay that he's not ready right now because he is a different person. He learns differently, he processes differently. And I don't think I've failed as a mom or I've failed him in this journey. I just think, and I like what you said, you're right. I made a conscious choice to not put that much pressure on ourselves and on him in these routines that I applied with my older son. Like, we're going to watch this video and you're just going to sit on this potty and we're going to wait for something to happen. That's obscene. That's ridiculous. So yeah, I made that choice. However, I will say that in June, when he's out of school, because we've taken the break from like this, like, we're gonna let you run naked and we're gonna let you, stay in your underwear. We're like, he's gonna be 5 and let's try again. So we are
Yeah.
making that conscious choice in June to let's try again. Now that he's older, he's accustomed to the routine of at least, hey, I know I need to go to the bathroom. I know I need to pull down my pants. I got to wash my hands. I know I flush, wash my hands. So at least we got the mechanics down. But we're going to try to see, from a sensory perspective, maybe something's different now that he's going to be 5. But I am going in with my eyes open, no pressure on myself. I'm not putting pressure on him. Been there, done that, was not in a good space, not a good space to live in. But yeah, I'm trying to get to where you're at, Brianna. 90%. That's amazing. I know you're years ahead, but I'd like to come back and do a follow up and be like, here's where we are.
We can't, she's this little itty bitty thing. Thankfully, she still fits in pull-ups because they don't make pull-ups big enough. There is a company out there, and I'll have to find it and link it, that they make diapers for bigger kids. And I had reached out to them and I said, do you guys make pull-ups? Because if not, you got to go like Depends or something like that, right? So they're not
Interesting.
made that way. So thankfully she still fits in. It's like we use like the night ninja one, like all
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
girls, because they come into like extra large size.
Yep.
So she's still in pull-ups, and every time I try to give her a diaper, no, sorry, every time I go to give her underwear, she's like, she don't
Not
want it.
happening.
So I'm like, even myself, I'm like, all right, guess we're still in diapers. Thankfully, we have got reimbursement through our OPWDD budget. So yeah, so we have been able to do that because you can get diapers through Medicaid. But Aubrey, anytime we've ever tried those diapers through Medicaid, she gets like rashes and stuff. So we've been able to do it through the health part of our budget, which has been like a lifesaver for
That's
us
amazing.
because they're so expensive. And at one point she was having like stomach
100%.
issues. She was like going every like 2 hours. And I was like going through diapers like crazy. I was thinking about this yesterday when I was sitting in the bathroom with Aubrey as she's sitting on the toilet, getting ready to go to the bathroom. And I was thinking about this conversation we're about to have and kind of the tools that work. The tools that like have worked for me, and they're like, have a sensory bin, have them blow bubbles, have them. It doesn't work for Aubrey. She does not want, when she's on she wants to be on the toilet. She doesn't even want the iPad. And to be honest, it's distracting, right? Because they have to figure out how to get their brain to tell them, their body, that it needs to come out. And so there's a couple of things I was like, I got to share this with Lourdes
Please, because the sensory stuff doesn't work for us either. So please share.
Okay, so my mom has created what she calls poop massage. So like when Aubrey's laying on hers, like hanging out with us, and we'll be like, poop massage, and she'll even go like, poop massage, and you just kind of go around and you go down, or you rub, right? So you start to prepare. You're talking about it, and it's like we make it fun. It's a poop massage, and I'm like, go to Mackie, get your poop massage. So I think part of that too is like helping her connect to her bowel movements. We've tried like getting an apron. I don't think this worked, but an apron that has all of the parts of your body. Like my mom was bringing over like every week something different about the intestines and the bowel movements, like just talking to her about it. I'm not sure how much that helped, but I do think poop massages help because it gets them to understand and feel. I think she was feeling it because it's a sensory thing. And then, dude, I do like meditation with her. Like I'll sit with my back against the wall with my hands on her legs. And I'm like, okay, Aubrey, just imagine that the poop is flowing down your body and it's coming out of your body. And you're like, try to walk her through it. And I'll take a deep breath.
But is she following, or is she like one eye open? Like, what are you doing?
No, sometimes she's like, tells me to stop. She's like, eh. So when if she doesn't want me talking, I just sit there like this. And I'm like, because one thing I learned when I was pregnant and had hemorrhoids, that was a fun time. One thing I learned was that your jaw, I didn't know this, your jaw is connected to your pelvic floor. So when you're actually supposed to, when you have a bowel movement, if you release your jaw and you're like, it releases your pelvic floor. So instead of like clenching and pushing, you're supposed to release and go, right? And so I try to share with her on the toilet, like, okay, you're going to release and go. So she hates me talking, like I'm annoying to her because, we got a preteen. So I just sit there like this and I'm just like envisioning it myself. I feel like I'm like telepathically or whatever, just communicating with her through my mind.
Yes. Mind melding. Like, okay.
So
I totally need to try to figure out about the poop massage because my youngest has the attention span of a fly. So I don't think the meditation is going to work yet. Maybe later on, but I love that idea. And to your point, we had the poster signs like, this is what's happening next. He could give two shits, like doesn't care. Yep. He tears it down. Sensory toys, nope, not interested. The only thing that gets him to sit long enough is if we do, because he loves numbers, we do like a countdown. So we'll do 20, 19, 18, because he knows the numbers. So he knows where there's an end in sight. Like I'll even drag it out sometimes. I'll be like 20 and he'll be like on 17 and I'm like 19. And his eyes are getting big but he can't say like, what are you doing? I'm on 15 and you're on 19 because I know there's something coming and I don't always win, but the countdown is the only thing that can get him sitting there. But I don't know about you, but we've had marathons where I've literally had him sitting on the toilet for like 25 minutes. And I'm like, I know there's a poop coming because the minute I give you a shower, put you in your PJs, I'm going to come upstairs and there's going to be a wafting of something eye-watering the minute I get on the upstairs landing and, you've pooped your pull-up and I got to get you out.
You're not going to want to hear this, but you're not going to want to hear this, but someone told me that especially with kids, neurodivergent kids, and especially kids on the spectrum, it actually happens closer to puberty because there's some type of connection with the body and the brain that happened during puberty. And I'm sure there's some research study out there. And we just saw a psychologist yesterday who was like, whatever's happening in their bodies during puberty helps them make that connection. And you find more kids around the puberty age that start to learn to release on the body.
Okay, so that's very hard for me to hear You've just broken my heart.
I'm so sorry.
That's actually really tough. And and I do the thing that you're not supposed to do. I'll pull parents who I know might have kids who are neurodivergent. And I'm like, so, you're kind of like, so tell me, when was so and so successfully potty trained? And they give you a number that's close to your kid's age, and you're like, you get like, oh my God, maybe this will be the year. And then I caught myself doing this. True story. I caught myself doing this last month. I admit, even though I told myself I was going to stop doing it. And I got excited and I was just like, why did you just do that to yourself? Because if he hits that number and it doesn't happen, you're going to feel like, what did I do wrong? And it's not his fault. He's like just he's living his best life. As far as he's concerned, life is awesome. I'm the one that's the nutcase,
Right.
the one that's the stress case, and I'm here all sad and miserable, and he's like totally fine. Cutest smile. Life is good. And I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? So I need to, and I don't know if there are parents who are going to listen to this or just like, I totally do that. I always try to be like, oh, maybe it'll be like so and so's kid. But your stuff about, maybe it's closer to puberty, it makes sense. I'm sure like I'm going to read it and I'm going to be like, I understand that logic. Brianna.
It's hard, and I think too, like you asked, like, what did we do? We started just celebrating any milestone in the sense of like, oh my God, you sat on the potty for 20 seconds. Go you. Like, woo. Like, that's awesome. Like being kind of obnoxious about it too, in the sense of because I needed to start celebrating something. I needed to feel like there was progress. And so the fact that he's sitting on the potty like is amazing. Aubrey wouldn't even actually use like before June, she wouldn't even sit on the potty to pee. Like that, like she didn't want anything to do with it. And so, and if we can get her to wash her hands, we're lucky at this point, And so even to this day, I'm like, you have poopy on the potty. Poopy on the
We do that
potty.
too.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So it's and when she does, like 2 days ago, she had an accident in her diaper. And I have to remind myself, like, I feel so defeated. I'm like, I worked so hard. I've done so much. And you're so vigilant too. Like, I'm so vigilant. I constantly am staring at her, especially when she
Yes,
was
for signs.
yeah, and I'm like, she went in her room. Do you think she's pooping in her diaper? I got to go get her. I got to go see what she's doing. Like if she's pooping in her diaper, then I need to get her onto
Totally.
the toilet. And that was like very early on in like January and February when this all started to come to fruition. By the way, it came to fruition because it was her choice. Like I don't even remember. I don't even think we did anything other than I became more vigilant in the sense of like, I watched her more. And when she was about to go, I like hands underneath her and it's like, we're going,
Totally.
Yeah, it's the celebrating all the little stuff because I'm like between 5 and 9, that's 4 years. And not saying 9 is your number. Who knows what your number is going to be. But it's long and hard and watching everybody else's kids go through this and so our youngest is 19 months. And when I was pregnant, they're like, oh, it must be great to have kids. Your first one's out of diapers. Girl, that broke my heart. And I was like, actually, I've had to get comfortable telling people, actually, she's not out of diapers. Actually, we're still working on potty training. And I had to just get comfortable. Like, this is my life. This is my life.
Yeah.
This is my daughter. This is what's happening. This is what's going on. And I had to get comfortable with it. And it's hard work, and that came up a lot when I was pregnant. Like, when you start sharing that they're 8, even when you're like, oh, I have a 9-year-old and I have a 19-month-old. And they're like, she must be such a good helper. I'm like, no, she don't care.
Yeah. No, you know what? You raise a really interesting point around, getting comfortable with being like having to disclose when appropriate. That no, actually, nope, they're still in pull-ups. They're not fully potty trained. We are going through getting babysitters for childcare. We're in between childcare. And as we're interviewing, we were fully transparent. We was like, our child is neurodivergent and there's a lot of awesome things about him. However, you should understand that we are still going through this potty training journey and he will be 5 and he's not potty trained. And it's just weird. Not weird, but yeah, you kind of feel it a little bit like, I can't explain it. I feel it in my solar plexus first because there's a part of me that I don't know if it's like he doesn't care, he's fine. But there's a part of me, I don't know what I'm feeling. I can't even actually articulate the words, but there's maybe a sadness that, oh man, I wish this is not where we were on this journey. But I also, because what that means is, and I don't know if you, I'm sure you've experienced maybe something similar, but it's also like when you're traveling, it's like you're bringing a diaper bag more or less, right? You
Mhm.
got to bring the wipes, you got to bring a pull up, you got to bring an extra pair of clothes just in case there's an overflow or something. And, I always joke with my mom, I was like, sometimes with my youngest, it's like having two kids because on one hand, he's super mobile. He's like any typical, like, 4.5-year-old, but there's parts of it where it's still very much like a baby because
Mhm.
we still have our makeshift diaper bag. So yeah, it is getting comfortable with, oh no, we got to bring this because he's still not quite potty trained. So when we travel, we always have to think about where we're going, what we're doing, what we're bringing, how long can we be in this setup. Nope, we're definitely gonna have to bring pull-ups. So traveling is always like long distance traveling is always a challenge.
Have you learned to change him standing up yet?
Please pray tell, how do you do that magic trick? How? How?
We had to. I mean, she was
Pull-ups
just
don't
getting.
allow for that. How?
Yeah, well, thank God they rip on the side, right? But then they got to take their pants off and things like that, you know? But yeah, we've had to I had to learn how to change her standing up. I couldn't lie her down on one of the beds anymore, right? I couldn't I even started when even in the bathroom at home, I would change her standing up. And so like you just wipe it and you get really good at wiping. You figure it out. You can totally figure it out. But that piece to me was a little bit more game changer in the sense of like when we went somewhere or we traveled or we were at a restaurant or and I even now change Finley standing up too. Sometimes like I'm like, why don't we talk about changing kids standing up? Because it once you get the groove of it, it's easier. And I remember over the summer we were out camping up in Cooperstown and we were on a boat and Aubrey went to the bathroom on the boat and I was like, what am I going to do? And thankfully we had pulled up next to a restaurant. So I had to take her into the restaurant, change her diaper while she was standing up. And I just remember going on like, I'm really sorry, there's a dirty diaper in the garbage. Like, you may want to change it. And that was the hardest thing for me to say to people. I was like, I wanted to cry. And then I was like, but I can't be the only person. I can't be the only parent out here still working on their kid. And then I just remind myself that guess what? Someone with a 2-year-old is also doing the same thing.
Mhm.
So it is what it is. Level 3 energy.
No, it totally is. And I've gotten to a point where I'm getting more and more comfortable because now I'm getting into that stage where people are making assumptions, right? Before,
Yeah.
not so much, but now I'm getting to that point where I need to actually explain and clarify. But I'm also quickly getting to that point where I was like, I mean, and this is where we are. This is how life is rolling at the moment.
I think that's a beautiful place to get to, like acceptance. Acceptance. We get
Well, it takes the
to
pressure
acceptance
off.
for sure takes the pressure off because that pressure weighs on you so much. But it doesn't do anything. The pressure doesn't actually do anything.
No, it's just taking up mental energy, like energetic body space. So for me, I'm definitely getting to that place, and I think there are probably a lot of parents who are finally getting there, where it's like I'm okay with this. This is where we are, and we will get to where we need to get to in due time when they're ready. And I'm very happy that I'm in that space because like I said, when I said given up, but I like the way you phrased it earlier, made the choice to just stop. It was tough at first, but man, did I feel relief afterwards.
The feeling of relief. I mean, there's so many places in our life where we can feel that feeling of relief, but when you feel it as a parent in any of our parenting journey, it allows us to show up more present. It allows us to
Totally.
celebrate with them, to see them for who they are, to watch all the other beautiful things that they're doing and growing.
Yes.
And so we we get to be more present instead of being worried. And then when I'm more present, I find that I'm more in my joy and in my love and in,
Yes.
that piece of me. So I am so grateful though that I don't think Aubrey cares.
Well, that's what I say. Like, Xana's like, hey, I'm fine. Like he's just like like I said, he's living his best life. And I think you hit on another important point, especially for parents with kids who are neurodivergent. When you stop holding on to those, I call them my invisible guardrails, like my milestones that kept me like, okay, and now we're in this season with our child. When I finally let go of that stuff, you do start to notice all of the little things. And, we celebrate things like, did he just make a reference to needing the light switch on? I mean, it was 3 words, but it was in the right context of what he needed. And we were just like, that's amazing. And we get excited. We're like, okay, something, he made a connection there. And, he used his limited wording vocabulary in the right way. And we were so excited. And I think when, at least in the order of the birthing of my kids, with my oldest son being neurotypical, we're like, of course he's saying mommy and daddy. Like that's what they should be doing at that stage. And now for us, we're just like, good for you for trying. Like you could see the gears and they're looking at you with their big brown eyes and the gears are they're turning and then they say the word that they're trying to get out there and you're just like amazing. So we notice how playful he is. We notice how mischievous he is in a fun way. And we look forward to it. We're like, oh, let's see what he does now. So we're just focused on like his little antics and the things he think we don't know he's doing. And it's just so much more fun. We just enjoy our child as we should have been from the very beginning, more so now than we did when we were in our kind of our worry state about these milestones, blasted milestones, like to hell with them. I don't even look at them.
Oh,
So because
forget it.
they kept me in that worry. I was in like a state of constant worry with these guidelines and milestones. And now, to your point, I'm much more present. I see the little things and we get to celebrate them a lot more, which is I think what we are meant to be doing with our kids in general.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, our kids, they think differently. Their brain works differently. And so when they're focused on trying to learn one aspect of their body or their brain, like their speech or things like that, it's hard for them to learn another aspect at the same time. And so
Yeah.
just even remembering if we try this again or we go into this with a plan again, and something works, like we go into the plan, it's like I go into a plan and I'm going to go have fun with it and I'm going to execute and see what works. It's like an experiment, like what worked,
Yes.
and then finding out too, like what didn't work. Okay, this doesn't, like we can say very clearly what doesn't work for our kids, like
Yeah. Totally.
these things don't work, but it's because we've tried them.
Yes. Yes. And I love what you're saying because it's prepping me for June. First of all, as I felt a bit heavy when you kind of shared with me about, what one of the possible timelines might be. But now that I have that in the back of my mind, that actually was a bit helpful. But to your point, I'm going in thinking, I'm going to try again. It's another attempt at trying. He's a couple of years older and it's okay. At least we'll see what worked, what didn't work, and why this time. So I am definitely going in there giving myself a lot more grace than I did the first time around. Yeah. So I'm actually looking forward because I'll be honest. At first, I'm like, we're going to try it again. And there was a little bit of heaviness. But now that we're talking, I feel a bit more lighter about going into June because I'm like, and you know what? It may not work, but that's okay.
That's a
Because
path, or it might work and look different than you think it's going to.
yes. Yeah. No, totally. So that's kind of where I
Yeah.
am.
It's so beautiful. I want to share this story. So we were out camping in Mystic and we are at one of my favorite beaches and there's a porta potty. So one of the things I think I'm always going to have to do is I'm always going to be hyper vigilant. And I think also if I use the word always, then the day it doesn't happen, I might actually be like, this is cool. Like it's in my brain. Like I have to always be vigilant of Aubrey. Like even now when she's home and she like stands up and she stands in the same spot. And if I don't watch her, she's like, I think she's trying to tell me that she needs to use the bathroom. And even though she doesn't need permission, I'll look at her and be like, Aubrey, why don't you go to the bathroom and go poopies? And she'll like beeline it to the bathroom. And so I'm always vigilant and watching her and watching her body language. So we're at the beach and she's playing in the sand and playing in the water and I'm watching how she's moving and I'm like, oh my God, she has to go to the bathroom. There's only a porta potty.
You're a brave woman. I would not have.
Girl,
I would be like, just let it happen. Let's find a bush. Was there not a bush somewhere?
no, there's a porta potty. I was like, this is going to be a fun one. But I will tell you, I celebrated so hard. My mother-in-law wouldn't even use the porta potty. I was like, girl,
Neither would
your
I.
daughter, I mean, like your granddaughter just went in and went on the porta. I was like, that's a huge milestone. I was like, yeah. Like, so that's been one of our
That's
funnest places is the porta potty. Like, yeah, do it.
I'm tr I'm oh, yeah, no, I don't think we've had any successes because, again, my youngest is like the silent Cooper, like, we believe he likes to go and hide, and no so we don't have an opportunity to I would have loved to have had to be fair, I would have loved to have a moment where I could observe and know what his, like, body move I don't even know what they are because he
Right.
goes and hides somewhere under his blanket or he waits till when no one's around. And so, if someone's like, well, sometimes they make a face and no, I don't have that luxury yet, but I'd love to get there. But kudos to her for braving the porta potty. I can honestly say I've never used one in my life. And and I don't camp. I'll sooner go behind a tree if I go camping. And like, I'm serious. So, my husband always makes fun of me. He's like, you're not a rough it kind of girl. And I'm not. I
Yeah.
tell him I am, but I will sooner go behind a bush in a tree somewhere in the wooded area than a porta potty. I can't do
I
it.
feel like that's something though, part of like in your porta potty journey, not porta potty, in your in your journey of like life in general, you need to learn how to go anywhere, even someone else's house, the locker room, like
Yeah.
the restaurant bathroom,
Yeah,
like
I know
that's
people who will not go in anywhere unless it's their house.
yeah.
Like they'll go and pee, but number two, forget it. And I'm just like, really? Sometimes you just gotta. For me,
Yeah.
I draw the line at the porta potty, so that's kind of where I am.
I'm like, girl,
Um,
you'll go anywhere. Like this is good. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting
yeah,
there. Yeah. Oh
that's
my
funny.
God. All right. So I did some research before we got on this call, and I'd
Okay.
love to hear your thoughts
Yes.
on some of these questions. So, if
Okay.
anyone's listening and if they're working on potty training with their child, whether they're neurodivergent or neurotypical, right? So, if you're just working on potty training, these are some questions I invite you to sit with. I'd love to see like what question pops up for you and if we want to even answer one of them right now, but what do
Okay.
I need in this season, emotionally, practically, and spiritually to stay grounded and patient on this journey? Am I holding on to a timeline that no longer serves us? What would it feel like to let go? How can I separate my child's progress from my own sense of worth as a parent?
Ooh.
What are the quiet wins we've had that the world might not notice but matter to us deeply? And who can I talk to that won't judge, fix, or compare, but that will sit in it with me? What language am I using with myself and with my child around potty training? Is it kind and is it hopeful? And then where can I offer myself grace instead of guilt? I feel like we went through a lot of this today.
We kind of did cover a lot of this stuff today, which is organically in our it just came up, but I feel like we covered a lot of that.
Yeah. I love that question about what do I need? What do I need in this season, emotionally, practically, and spiritually to stay grounded and patient on this journey? Because I feel like I need a partner that's with it with me, with my
Yes.
husband, right?
Yes.
I would love for him to do more of the pottying, but I need to accept that this is my role as a mother right now. This is
Yeah.
my role. And I need to share my story.
Yeah.
I want to share my story so I can make sure that it's heard and people don't feel alone and we can talk about this because our two kids are not the only two kids
Yeah.
out there. And
Yeah.
we are not the only two parents out there that are going
Totally.
through this. And so it's normal. It's normal to still be working and practicing and finding new ways to help our children in this area.
Yes. Yes and yes. And I think you kind of said it, knowing that we're not the only two. And it's something that I wish I had known, a year and a half ago when I was just kind of like banging my head against the door trying to figure out again, I can't help it. I'm a rule follower. I like my list and like I've done everything that they said. And but there was no one else that I could talk to. Like, you kind of feel weird talking to your friends or your siblings who are not, they don't know what you're going through because they cannot relate. And they're like, "Oh, well, they're still young. They give it some time." But I'm like, I don't think they're making the connection, and I don't know how to help them make the connection, and I feel stuck. So I think what I need and continue to need, and I'm glad that this is why I'm so glad we're having this call. I need to hear someone be like, "I'm in the shit with you," literally and figuratively speaking, and be like, "I totally get it. You guys are so funny. You're so real. You're so authentic. Like, this is exactly what I'm experiencing right now." I would have loved to listen to this podcast, when I was attempting it at, 3 and 4. And now I'm going to try it again at 5. But it would have helped me be more grounded. And it's okay because everyone else is going through this. And like, whether to your point, neurotypical or not, but everyone's going to go through this journey. They're all having the same frustrations you are. And for the added bonus of having a neurodivergent kid, there's someone who's going through it as well. And their kid might be 10, 12, 13, 14. So be kinder to yourself. And I think that's what I continue to still need to hear. Even though we're having this conversation, it's good to get a reminder.
And it's not just in this part of our parenting journey,
Oh,
being kinder to ourselves.
no. Yeah.
No, this one just smacks you in the face a little harder, I think.
A little bit. I mean, but you're right. There's so many other areas where we need to be kinder to ourselves as parents. And I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit more biased, but I just feel like with moms particularly, because we're the nurturer, we've carried this child in our body and we just feel like we need to go above and beyond all the time. If I have a work event and I get home late and I miss bedtime, I'm sitting here being like, maybe if I had left a little bit earlier, I would have at least got to say good night before, and it's just like, girl, you're not Superwoman. Like, relax, take a step back. They're going to be fine.
We're not. I think the whole part of like doing the work is trying to release that pressure off of ourselves.
Yeah.
How do we release that pressure? How do we do the work? How do we love ourselves again through all of this? Because there's so many times in this journey where there's another human staring back at you where their behavior and who they are makes us feel that we're not good enough. And it has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with us. And so I love that you and I can talk about this on the podcast ether. And I am so grateful. I'm so appreciative. I will have to do another episode for
Oh,
sure
for sure.
on
We could pick
something.
any other topic you want to pick about it when it comes to parenting, mom life. I mean, I just think there's never too much. The market is never too saturated to be talking about parenting and like understanding that it's hard. It's not what they're showing you on, these perfect Instagrams and videos and, there's a lot of stuff in the middle and it's hard stuff and it's okay to feel like, yeah, I sucked today as the parent, and then bring yourself back up. You can have those moments because they're valid, but then you kind of need to be like, you got to release it. Talk to someone, listen to a podcast that makes you laugh. But yeah, I think this stuff is great. And I'm so honored that you had me on as a guest. And I absolutely want to do another one. I'm up for
Well,
it.
before we sign off, just give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. Allow yourself to be present. Remain in the fun of it, as hard as it all can be, and do whatever you need to do to love yourself through it.
Absolutely.
And
I
that's
couldn't
it.
agree with you more.
Love you, girl.
Hey, whew. Wow, that was a biggie. I am so grateful for Lourdes and for showing up to this conversation with honesty and openness and just so much heart. If you're in the thick of potty training or you're circling back for what feels like the 100th time, or you're in a place where you're just choosing to pause and not think about it right now, I hope this episode gave you a space to breathe and to feel seen. I hope these words wrapped around you like the warm, cozy blanket does, and it reminds you that your pace, your path, and your process are all valid, and your child's pace and path and process is their own, and it's beautiful. This journey is tough. It's mentally, physically, emotionally, it's tough, but we're not alone. And if it helps, here are a few of the reflective questions we shared that might meet you right where you are right now. What do I need in this season, emotionally, practically, and spiritually, to stay grounded and patient in this journey? Am I holding on to a timeline that no longer serves us? What would it feel like to let go? How can I separate my child's progress from my own sense of worth as a parent? That one's one of my favorites. What are the quiet wins we've had that the world might not notice, but matter to us deeply? Who can I talk to that won't judge, fix, or compare, but will simply sit in it with me? What language am I using with myself and my child around potty training? Is it kind and is it hopeful? In the meantime, while you're reflecting, be gentle with yourself, celebrate the small wins, and remember that this chapter, no matter what it looks like, it's still part of your beautiful story. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend, rate and review the show, and follow along for more real, messy, loving conversations like this one. Check the episode description for ways to connect with me and to learn more about my coaching work, especially if you're craving support in parenting or navigating a new season in life. Until next time, keep breathing. You are doing an incredible job. Bye for now, friends.
I wish I had listened to this conversation, when Zan was 3 and when he was 4, because it was rough. I mean, really rough. And you just like I said, you just didn't have anyone to really talk to about it because, you just kind of get like the sympathetic tone.
Yeah.
It's like not helpful.
Sad. Like we all know.
Well, I wish I get it. And I
Everyone
don't
knows
want to put them
potty
in that
training is
weird
hard.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you have an older one. So even I'm sure with your oldest, it was still hard.
Oh, totally. We were like constantly, I mean, the laundry was just never stopping. We were constantly running around, lots of misses. But
So
we
I
got
have to
there.
remind myself of that too. Like I have to remind myself that if Aubrey potty trained at 3, right, or 2, I would still be carrying around extra clothes. I would be
Yep.
carrying around extra pants and underwear and all this stuff. I didn't even do any of that, right? So like parents that potty train their kids still have accidents.
Oh, 100%.
Like it's not all of a sudden they learn it and it's done. Like it's a practice. And some kids in this practice, while they're at age 2, so it's normal for this to be happening. But I'm like, okay, Bree, so you didn't have to go through that. Well, you have to go through it now. You have to go through it now.
Yep.